Hello everyone and welcome to my third Magicka Dragon Knight build for the patch Morin. So I've made a few builds this patch just for different examples. We've got a very tanky build, we have a build that is light armor, and now I'm going to make a build very similar to my Cerebane Black Rose setup. Now set's completely different, but the whole playstyle, sustain, etc, is near enough identical. It does the same damage, same sustain, same everything really. So it's in a really good spot. Damage is enough, definitely, to kill pretty much anything. If you're against the Magicka Templar, it doesn't really matter how much you have as a Magicka DK. It's the easiest class to play against DK in the world. But outside of a Magicka Templar, this build should be able to take on pretty much anything. And even a Templar, if they're not brilliant, you'll be fine. Yeah, just one of those things. Now, I have done something here. I have moved some skills around my bars. So that's something that's more down to... How to even describe this? It's down to increasing the skills as much as possible, but technically it is costing me some stats. Not costing me stats, sorry. It's costing me the ability to get used to the build. So I am slowly practicing these skill positions, but they are much better for the build. And this would actually be true for all of my DK builds. The positioning of those skills is going to increase your heals, it's going to increase your damage, etc. There's no loss in doing it at all. It's only a benefit, so yeah. Anyway, our sets. So, we are running, and again, keep in mind if you watch my Magicka Knight build, you will know this. I am using 5 Shackle Breaker. This is a heavy body, heavy boots, heavy legs, light gloves, light sash. So, with 5 heavy, 2 light in this. And we're using that with Witch Mother's Potent Brew. Again, it's the only time where I believe Shackle Breaker is ever worth it is with Witch Mother. There's a lot of maths behind that. I can't be bothered explaining it, but in those situations, it's a great set. So we are using this Witch Mothers, which I'll get onto in a sec. We're then running 2 Scoria, heavy and heavy, obviously, for the max resistances. And the way we're piecing this is with 3 Impen on the front bar, 2 on the back bar, and we're sturdy on everything else. I have tried mixing this up a bit, but I think this is kind of where you want to leave it. So, yeah. Everything is Triglyphed. You get a really good benefit out of those Triglyphs. As the Magicka DK, it does cost you a bit of damage, but I think the stamina is so useful anyway for the marginal amount of damage loss. I think it's really worthwhile. Our jewellery then is our other 5-piece set, which is Bloodthorn. So spell damage, Magicka, magical recovery, and when you deal direct damage, you restore 645 Magicka and stamina. This effect can occur once every 5 seconds. This is just such a good way of keeping your stamina up. So this is the way that we're going to make the stamina sustain in this build equivalent to the patch in the previous patch where I was using Cerebane Black Rose. This is going to be your stamina sustain tool. It's also going to give a good amount of Magicka sustain. This is worth 260 Magicka and stamina regen if anyone's interested in how much it's worth. So it's a really powerful set. Nearly as good as Amorplasm. One of my favourite sets in so many different situations. I really like this set. It's very good. And again, shield is going to be Triglyphed. The sword is actually defending. You can get this as a name drop, nice and cheap. Yeah, nice way to save some money. And the glyph on the weapon is going to be your weapon and spell damage glyph. Front bar then, we're actually running a different set. We're running 2 willpower because when we run Bloodthorn on the back bar, we don't need that extra stat magical recovery piece. It's a tiny bit extra recovery. You only need about half it to sustain fully. Which sounds really weird, but just played it out and I just feel that way. Putting willpower on the front is completely reliable. We're still going to proc Bloodthorn on cooldown because Bloodthorn procs on Talons. It's very easy proc for it. You're going to do that regularly. You're still going to get this on cooldown. And our Embers is on the back bar as well to help proc that on cooldown. So it doesn't change the 5-piece at all, but instead it's giving our front bar an extra 1,450 Magicka for more damage. Now, next patch, you could run the exact same setup, except you would run with Torag's Pact 2-piece for spell damage, and then you could run Nern for it to sort that out. Nice way to resolve that issue. And then the front bar glyph is Oblivion, and we are using Sharpened. Our stats in this build are as follows. Keep in mind that we're heavy armor spell damage, a little shy of 1.6k. It's more than enough. With the Wrath passive, we're 1.8k, so we're equivalent to 1.8k spell damage here, unbuffed. That's just enough. As a DK, you don't have to go overboard with that sort of stuff, especially when we're sitting on 40k Magicka. Really solid Magicka pool there, does absolutely fine. Health is huge. That's because of all the Triglyphs and the Scoria. Nearly 29k on the main bar. Really nice for increasing our Dragon Blood heal and just increasing our tank ability in general. And then we are 16.4k stamina. Absolutely ample for perma blocking with the setup that we're playing. And I'll get on the reason for that in a sec. Magical recovery then is through the roof. We're 1531 magical recovery from the Witch Mother. We have the heavy armor passives. That's another chunk of regen there. I think that's about 250 to 300 for me. And we have Bloodthorn on top of that. So Magicka Sustain is really good. I'm also running 2 Magicka reduced cost glyphs. So Sustain is just more than enough. You can get away, and now this is something worth suggesting for people who really want. You can get away with another spell damage glyph. If you put another spell damage glyph, you're going to be about 1770 unbuffed, which is super high for heavy. You can run that. It's not necessary to keep a reduced cost glyph, which I'm running 2 of, like I said, for Magicka in a duel situation. I mostly play alone. I don't know how it is on other platforms, but PCEU open world is ridiculously zergy at the moment. You're lucky to get engaged by less than 15 people. That's a very happy day. So I like the reduced cost to really sustain against those guys. Each to their own. It's definitely an option though. Front bar crit and back bar crit are both the same, 32%, which is pretty solid for heavy armor. It's not bad at all. And stamina regen, fairly irrelevant here. Crit resist 1290 on the front bar. We're using the Atra Mundus again for that bit of extra sustain. Once again, if you wanted to give that up, you could try running the Thief here. Thief is going to be your next best Mundus. It's going to increase your heals, increase your damage. Definitely a cool Mundus there. But for the time being, I've gone with Atra. I like the extra recovery. Again, I want to over sustain. That's just my playstyle. Each to their own. If you want to change this for Thief, if you want to change the glyph, keep in mind, people always come out with the comments, this build is so shit, Tom. Its damage is too low. Well, that's great. Run another spell damage glyph. You don't have to run an identical build to someone. Look at the build and think, alright, he's playing a more sustained playstyle. I like to go, I'm running a 50-man Zerg. I want to go max damage. Pump up the damage. Each to their own, guys. Alright, each to their own. Our glyph extra is this one here. So I've already said that I'm running 2 Magicka reduced glyphs. This is the best glyph in the game right now for Magicka DK. It is just a no-brainer to run this. People who don't run this are fools. It's brilliant. Reduce the cost of blocking by 203 and reduce the cost of bash by 304. To put into perspective how much stamina this actually saves you in a Zerg situation, I have tested this against Jabs and Flurry. So those skills will prop this on cooldown, your block. It is literally a 30% stamina save. I will last 30% longer with this glyph than with a different glyph. This is totally worth running. Unless, again, you're maybe running in a Zerg, you're not going to have to block that much. Then, of course, you could, again, replace that with a spell damage glyph as well. So you could even go 2 spell damage glyphs here and get over 2k unbuffed in heavy. But I'm telling you right now, if you run in a small scale, this is the greatest glyph of all time. It is brilliant. I've run that in every Magicka DK build to date in this patch. It's so good. It's amazing. But yeah. So our skills. Deep Breath is now on the front bar, and we're using the Draw Essence Morph. Magicka is tougher to sustain these days. I'm running this one to get a load of Magicka back. It's a great way of sustaining. It's also going to then get the benefit of my Mage Light extra Magicka, the Willpower extra Magicka, so we're going to get more heals from this, which is something DK really lacks this patch. It's a nice way to keep your heals up. Whip, again, obviously front bar, that's our main spammable DPS. Unbuff tooltip sitting on 8k and near enough, so it's an absolutely normal tooltip from Magicka DK. Pretty much every Magicka DK build I've ever seen that runs a normal, sustained, tanky, general setup run 8k. It's just a typical amount. You can get more again if you take those glyphs. You can get this up as high as about 8.6 unbuffed if you run 2 more spell damage glyphs. But I really like these glyphs open world, but each to their own, I guess. Mage Light, like I said, is here to increase our Magicka. It's also giving our front bar crit. It's very nice this patch for increasing our damage. Dragon Blood is obviously a base heal. You definitely want that on your front bar. The difference between front bar and back bar is nearly 20%. It's a huge difference. And because of that, I've actually dropped Igneous in this build. So I actually do not run Major Mending in this case. Which sounds really weird to many people. But since I've got the heal back by moving this front bar, it's saved me a skill slot which I need for Deep Breath. I think Deep Breath is too valuable open world. Again, if you're going to run maybe only duels, you could definitely drop Deep Breath off for Igneous. But for the time being, I'm actually comfortable without it, I would say. Each to their own. If you want to run it, again, this is not a you have to run it build. You gotta run what I say, fools. It's not like that. Run what you want to run. Alright? Every build video, I get some idiot comes in and it's like, this build is so bad, you don't even have Igneous Shield. It's like, great. Put Igneous Shield on the bar. Not difficult. Swap it over. Play the skills that you want. This is just my setup. We're then running entropy on the front bar. There's 3 reasons for this. Firstly, it increases our Magicka front bar. That gives us extra damage. Secondly, it's going to increase our Magicka to increase our heals. And thirdly, this morph increases your max health. And Dragon Blood scales on missing health. So we increase the chance of getting a good heal from Dragon Blood by having more health on the front bar. So really, really good to have the bar in this layout that I've got here. It is really clunky. You're going to have a lot of weapon swaps, but as you practice and get good at it, it's going to be worth the exchange. I promise you that. I have slowly improved on this, and I really, really think that this is a nice way to run the bar. I think I'll be starting to run this bar setup almost every Magicka DK I make from now on, whatever the patch, because the bar setup just feels really good. We're then running Dragon Leap. That's our ultimate here. If you want to run Meteor, be my guest. I really like Leap. I think it's a clean ulti burst, easy to build up. It really pairs well with our other ulti, which is One Hand Shield, because they're both cheap. So One Hand Shield ulti is just going to be there as our, you know, I'm in big shit stamina desperation mode, pop it and I'm good. So if you've got a huge swarm and you're getting procced on cooldown and you can't sustain that stamina, then it can help you a lot. Yeah, so I like that one, and it reflects projectiles. I've seen people kill themselves against this sometimes. There are fools out there, so really good ulti there. Volatile, huge DPS increase, great for your resistances, brilliant skill, must have. I did try dropping this off at one point, and this will sound ridiculous for Chudan, because Chudan's getting buffed next patch slightly with the resistance changes. I went against that in the end. I did stay with Scoria. Scoria is just too good to miss. It's an amazing set for DK, so yeah. We're then running Burning Talons, big dot, and this is the only build so far that I've run in this patch because of the changes to the cost. That's why I kind of made this build. Originally I was designing to make a high damage build. I did go around that and just end up making a more generic build, but it opens up the ability to run Talons, which I know many of you guys requested, so there you go, there's Talons for you. Much more sustainable in this build, you should be good to go. Flames of Oblivion, this is the best skill in the game, full stop. I don't know why DKs don't run this. To date, I am in shock when I see how few people run this. It's amazing to me. The dot on this is over 24k, and that's unbuffed. When we buff that up, it is huge damage. It's cheap as hell, and it gives us back bar crit. It is the best skill in the game. You don't have to run it. If you want to run Mistform, I honestly think it's shit, but each to their own. This is the best skill in the game. I would drop almost anything over this, but each to their own. Talons is going to be there. Fossilize is going to be there as our CC. Nice burstable CC. It does gives us stamina back. Something to note here as well is because we don't have Igneous Shield, Fossilize is going to be our magic dump for stamina. So if we're in a situation where we can't sustain our stamina, where we would otherwise use Igneous Shield spam, you're actually going to use Fossilize and just cast it on different guys, break up their charge on you, and that's going to be a nice way to resolve any issues you may be having with your stamina pool. It's also going to proc your whip. There are a lot of builds of roll dodging at the moment. I think that'll change next patch quite a bit. It's a great skill to have, pretty much a must-have. And then Burning Embers, this is a must-have. This is your biggest heal. It's the biggest heal in the game, I reckon. Maybe outside of Breath of Life, I don't know. Huge shield, huge dot, brilliant skill. You got to run that. Yeah, I think that's almost everything. Like I said, food is Witch Mother. I think the only thing I've got left to explain. Oh, I am a Vamp, by the way. Vamp, again, up to you if you keep it or not. I am even considering dropping it at this point because it does take a lot of extra damage, but each their own again. Final bit is champion points. I have changed a tiny bit in here. I feel it's closer to perfection. 31 in Warlord for CC break. Big chunk of CC reduction there. Very, very nice to have. 16 in bashing. Now, because of that glyph, we actually get really sustainable bashes. It does do a chunk of damage. Reducing the cost of that makes it more viable for a DPS increase. So even though you lose spell damage, bashes is like 1.52k damage. If you can weave that every aggressive weave, which I do, that is a chunk of extra damage. So I really like that with a one-hand shield setup, putting some points in there. 11 in Mooncarp. We don't have too much stamina recovery, but scale's okay. 43 in Arcanist. We've got a high magical recovery, worth amping that up. 37 in Tenacity. We use heavy attacks for our stamina in dire situations. So if we can maybe pop a one-hand shield ulti, whilst that's up, you can cast heavy attacks, build up your stamina to full. Decent time to do that. 20 in Tumbling. We don't roll dodge often, but when we do, we want it cheap. 52 in Shadow Ward for reducing the cost of block. Blue then, because our crit is getting higher, and again, you could run the Thief here. I do run 40 in Elfborn. Decent chunk of points in there for extra damage from your crits. 49 in Elemental Expert for your base damage. Spell Erosion, a couple of points that are spare. 7 in Blessed for healing. 28 in Shattering Blows for shield stacking targets. 52 in Master at Arms because of direct damage. And 28 in Firm Touch for your dots. And last but not least, in the red tree, 52 in Ironclad completely counters our Master Arms over here. I like to counter. That way, if anyone runs the same build, basically no CP. 17 in resistance for crit resist. I haven't run that in previous builds. This build, I want it to gain a bit more crit resist, so I did put some points in there to help. 37 in fixed skim, 37 hardy, 37 elemental defender. A little different to my normal setup. Normally I'd go 37, 40, 40. In the case of this build, I put a few in the crit resist to compensate. And then lastly, 19 elemental expert defender. Very underestimated tree. Light attacks. Again, these two builds, 20% of DPS is going to be from light attacks. Bang some points there. You are never going to regret this. 2 in Bastion in the case that you do run Igneous Shield. I just haven't bothered resetting that since I'm not, but each their own. It's also going to help your Dragon Leap a bit. And 7 in quick recovery for healing. So I hope that's useful. Again, you don't have to run. I'm going to disclaim this. It's amazing. It's only a small minority, but it's amazing how many comments you get commenting, this build is shit. It doesn't have this. It does have this. It's totally useless. It's not shit. This build plays brilliantly. I've proved it open world. I've proved it in Battlegrounds. It really is a solid build. If you don't like it, don't play it. If you do, play it. If you want to change things, of course, that's an option. I have suggested the things that you like here, but each to their own. A question from my Twitch chat that I think might be worth for the video. Why not run the Exploiter passive, which is this one here, for 10% more off-balance damage? It's simply not worth the points that you stack in Firmitude. You're going to waste too many points that would otherwise benefit. It's definitely not worth it this patch. But yeah. There you go. So good luck with the build. I hope it benefits the people who do care. If it doesn't, you're welcome to try my other 2 builds. There's 2 other builds for Magicka DK on my YouTube. Good luck with the playstyle. Good luck with the builds. And yeah, hopefully see you out in Cyrodiil. You could run Bloodspawn if you want instead of Scoria. I know I'll get someone asked that. Scoria is better in my opinion, but yeah. Good luck, guys.